Picture this. You've achieved time and financial freedom, and you can't figure out how to enjoy yourself anymore. Now, I know that sounds like a crazy problem, but check it out. This is actually a really common phenomenon. Whether it's because people get so frugal to save and invest their way to financial freedom that they have problems opening the wallet up again to enjoy things and hobbies and experiences and whatever, or it's because you're so driven that you don't want to take the time off, right? It's like you've achieved it, but you don't enjoy it. And it's funny, there's this parable, I think it's in one of David Green's books, about this fisherman who spends all his time in the mornings fishing, and then he takes a siesta, then he hangs out with friends and family all afternoon and drinks into the evening, and then he does it all over again. And the guy's like, why don't you start a business? You could grow this into a business. And he's like, well, what would I do with that? Like, well, you could build it into this and this and this and this, and then eventually you could sell it for multi-hundreds of millions of dollars. And then you could spend all your time fishing and napping and hanging out with friends and family and drinking and playing songs into the night. And the guy's like, I already fucking do that. So it's this weird conundrum where you look back and you're like, man, I used to have all this time for all these things, and it was, now you do again, but you don't know what to do with it. And just to prove my point, I fielded some questions out of the Facebook group for content, and one of them was from my buddy David Cole, who said, personally, I can't seem to find much content on how, once you reach financial independence, how to spend more and bring your life more value and more joy. Ramit Sethi is the only one who's done it, but there's not a whole lot of content. And I was like, man, that's a good one, because I struggled with this too. So I wrote down some thoughts, and we'll kind of reference them, but I mean, there's a few reasons, right? I touched on one. People get so frugal and so, I won't say stingy, but like so tight on their budgets that they struggle to open it up again and have fun. And that's a very common issue, actually. Like, this is a common thing for people, and I know a lot of people who've struggled with it. In fact, Ramit, actually, the guy referenced here, made my friend Mindy Jensen cry on a podcast talking about this exact same thing. So if you want an interesting episode, go listen to the Bigger Pockets Money Show with Ramit Sethi, and he talks about this. He's like, when are you going to start, actually enjoying the life that you've created? Like, you take it to the grave with you? Like, it was emotional for her. Think of it this way, right? There's all this science out there now about raising kids and how spankings and punishments and timeouts and all that isn't actually the right way to go about it now. It's all up for debate. But the studies are saying that you should reward the good behavior more than you punish the bad behavior. And that's more, better developmentally for children. And yet, for some reason, in our old age, we would rather punish the bad behavior than reward the good behavior. So I look at it as a reward. Like, for example, this year I'm going to buy a Porsche. I'm going to buy somewhat new in the last 5 to 10 years, either a Turbo S, a GT3, or a GT3 RS, unless I find like some other crazy. The new Panameras are pretty sick, but I want like the Turbo S or the GT3 RS. I've wanted one of those forever, and I sold all my Harley, my motorbikes, my truck, my sports cars, all this stuff to get into real estate for my first and second duplex. And now that I've kept rolling it, every time I sell, I roll, instead of actually buying myself a toy. And eventually, as my coach pointed out to me this year, if I don't ever buy that thing, I'm going to start believing it's a lie. It's going to be this carrot I'm chasing that I'm never going to get. And if you never give the carrot to the horse, then why would the horse go after the carrot? It's a ruse. And yet we don't do it for ourselves. So you've got to set these things in place to reward yourself for goals. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. On top of that, so for me, for my examples, right, things that I like to spend money on, I like travel. So I'll spend money on travel. When I travel, sometimes I'll splurge and get a really nice Airbnb that's just like more lavish than I would ever have spent on before. Sometimes I'll blow money on a nice car. Like, I'm going to San Diego for 2 days at the end of March in order to record podcasts with Rich Summers. It's in person. And I was looking online for a car for a Turo, and I found a 2020 Nissan GTR Godzilla. And it was like $500 to rent it for 2 days, get 400 miles, and I'm going to get to rip around in an exotic car that I've always liked. And it's going to be fun, and I'm going to love that. And to me, that's worth spending the money on. I wouldn't have spent the money on that before. And it took me a little while to get to a place where I was comfortable spending that money. And, don't get me wrong, I'll probably make some content in it, talking shit about gurus in front of whatever house I rent, and, make one of those ads or whatever. And so I'll be able to write it off as a business expense. So really it only cost me like $300 or $400 instead of $570, but it is what it is, right? But the point is, I'm spending the money to do the things. Another thing that I spend money on, and this is just a recent purchase, I just bought a new to me Tesla Model X. I've wanted one for a long time. I wasn't going to pay $100,000 for it, but I got it off a friend for 40, and it's got full self-driving, so love it. Super comfortable daily driver, and for those who don't know, I'm a huge road trip guy, so having a nice car to drive around in is great. And then travel. I like to spend money on travel, experiences. That's probably the biggest one. I probably spent 50 or 60 grand on experiences and travel last year. But like, okay, so let's say you're stuck in this spot. You've hit financial freedom. You're like, I don't know what to do with myself now. Great. Dude, just find some hobbies. Find something you're passionate about. You know, whatever it used to be. Even if it was video games, who cares? Whatever it is that you love doing, as long as it's not like, you know, meth. And if it is, I guess, in moderation. Nobody does meth in moderation. So like, whatever it is, and go back to it. You know, go to your old stomping grounds. If it was Dungeons and Dragons, if it was, you know, as long as it's not anything that's like harmful to you, like genuinely, then go back and find those hobbies. You know, maybe pick up an instrument, maybe pick up a sport, get into jiu-jitsu, go back to the gym, like all those things that you put off to sacrifice for this, I would start there. And then after you get to that, you know, what have you been denying yourself? If there's something, like for me, it's been cars. You know, I denied myself motorcycle, cars, toys for a long time. So I bought a Ducati last year, I bought the Tesla Model X, I'm buying a Porsche this year. Now the Tesla is more of a daily. It's still a fun car, but it's, you know, I'm getting rid of my other daily, so it balances out. And then I would just go for something that helps you with a sense of purpose, right? So if you're struggling with that, like what gives you fulfillment? Is it coaching others? Then do some coaching calls. You don't have to get paid. I mean, you could, but you just do it for free. Is it volunteering? Is it walking dogs for the dog shelter? You know, whatever that is, whatever gives you a sense of purpose in life. You know, if it's veteran stuff, go find some veteran stuff to volunteer at. There are all kinds of ways to help you feel more fulfilled, and most of them revolve around community, whether that's hobby community, car community, you know, some volunteer community, jiu-jitsu community, like some kind of community that you can have with people. That's probably the most beneficial way to spend your time, whether it's traveling with friends or hanging out with friends or finding another community. And just really, I would focus in on that stuff, and I would just turn it up slowly, you know, get into it, feel out what feels right. There's no pressure here. If you've got time freedom, do something in the middle of the day that you wouldn't normally do in the middle of the day. Enjoy the time freedom. Like, force yourself to enjoy the fact that you can take that time off. If it's financial freedom and you still have some hours that you like to lock off, then that's great. Do that. Like, that's the whole point of this, is that it's harder than you think, because you left your W-2, so you're not hanging out with those people. And most people don't have time and financial freedom, so you got to find other people to hang out with. And it's this weird conundrum where if somebody doesn't have anything to do all day ever, they might be a bum. And so you got to find people that are like quality people that still have an open schedule, and that's not easy. So like, I get it, 100%. I'm struggling with this still, finding a good community of people that I can network with, hang out with, and do the things with. But it's possible. You just got to get out there, get in your niche, get in your market, you know, talk to people who are interested in the same things you are, and really just lean into it and just enjoy. Like, let yourself enjoy the fact that you don't have a crazy schedule. I don't know. Hope that helped. If it did, share the video, tag someone in it, whatever, you know, like, comment, subscribe, all that other shit. Have a great day.